So we've talked quite a bit about what sexual and relationship abuse look like. So let's talk about some things that we can do. And we want to start with prevention. Rape prevention has historically been focused on what women can do to avoid being raped. This blamed the victim, and it didn't acknowledge that men are also raped. So I don't know how many of you remember at any point receiving the rape prevention tips and, carry the whistle, carry mace or pepper spray, don't go anywhere alone. There's been a lot on social media the last few years. This happens frequently, comes up, someone will start a thread, women say what you do to prevent being raped, and there's this list of change after change after change and limitation that women put on their lives to avoid being raped, and men are like, what? That makes no sense. And it's become this second nature to us. So realistically, people do need to know that when they're at risk, there are things that we can do to decrease our own risk. But rape prevention needs to be focused more on changing the societal norms and making abusive sexual behavior unacceptable. So there have been some moves that direction. The CDC has a Stop Sexual Violence program, and it promotes social norms that protect against violence. One of those things is bystander intervention. So I'm actually hearing about more instances of this because of the increased awareness. There are more cases when a bystander says, hey, I'm not sure she knows what's going on right now, or she said no, or he doesn't like that, don't do that. So bystander intervention can actually be very effective because it shames the abuser into stopping. And we're talking about sexual harassment, sexual assault, rape. It has a different effect for domestic or intimate partner violence, and we'll talk about that in a bit. The Stop Sexual Violence program also enlists men as allies. And one of the goals is to teach skills to prevent sexual violence. And that's teaching about healthy relationships and boundaries, and respecting the boundaries of others and defending one's own boundaries. Social and emotional learning how to do relationships, learning about healthy sexuality and consent, and empowerment for women. And this is very focused on women as victims, but the same skills can translate to other types of relationships. Provide opportunities to empower and support girls and women. That's strengthening economic supports for women and families, strengthen leadership and opportunities for young girls. This is about giving women options and making it easier for women to be able to say no to sexual coercion. Creating protective environments. That means improving safety and monitoring in schools, having enough people there to make sure that people are not being abused. Establishing and consistently applying workplace policies, and this is going to apply across the board. Sexual harassment is inappropriate. It doesn't matter which way it's going. And addressing community level risk through environmental approaches. So providing lighting, providing increased monitoring. Supporting victims and survivors to lessen harms, and that means victim-centered services, treatment for victims, and treatment for at-risk children and families to prevent problem behavior. So one of the goals of this program is to intervene when kids are young to prevent them from becoming sex offenders. So I want you to think about the things that you've been taught about rape prevention, and I want you to try to turn those on their heads. I'm actually going to see if I can find there's a poster that's intended to be somewhat humorous, and then there are some serious posters. I'm going to see if I can find those for you. Okay, so I want to show you a couple of posters, and there are a lot of similar examples, but I want to show a couple of posters that are an image of the message that we're trying to move to. So this is sexual assault prevention tips. We've all seen those, and they're things like don't take drinks from strangers, don't walk alone. If you do have to be alone, have someone on the phone. So here's sexual assault prevention tips, and when we read them, they're for the potential assaulter, okay? Because the way we stop sexual assault is by stopping the assaulter. Here's another less funny and more serious option for these. And there are quite a few of these Don't Be That Guy posters. But another piece of that is encouraging people to take an active role in stepping in and addressing questionable consent. Okay, so we're going to come back in the next video. It's going to be very short, and we'll talk a little bit more about male victims.